the end of an era. Simone Inzaghi didn't just coach Inter. He reshaped them. Yes, he inherited a Serie A winning squad from Antonio Conte, but he didn't ride that momentum. He rebuilt them in his own unique way. And what emerged wasn't just a team, it was a system, a signature, a brand of football that defined an era. Under Inzaghi, Inter didn't just play a 3-5-2. They mastered it. It became their DNA. He didn't have the luxury of shopping sprees, no war chest, no Galacticos. What did he have? Belief, structure, and the rare gift of turning outcasts into warriors. Mkhitaryan, Darmian, Acerbi, Arnautovic, names many clubs would pass on. Inzaghi didn't just use them. He revived them, squeezed every last drop from players others had already written off. This wasn't managing. It was transformation. In 4 years, he brought home a Serie A, Coppa Italias, Supercoppas, and then Europe. 2 Champions League finals in 3 seasons. For a squad held together by glue and grit, it was almost unthinkable. He took Inter back to the elite, not by buying his way in, but by outcoaching giants. This was his Inter. Smart, disciplined, relentless. Until Munich. PSG 5, Inter 0. The biggest defeat in a Champions League finals history. Humiliation. A performance that wasn't just off, it was hollow, toothless, a shadow of everything Inzaghi had built. Was it poor tactics, or the unavoidable reality of facing a club backed by billions, whilst Inter scrounged for bargains? Maybe it was both, but what's certain is a chapter ended that night. Simone Inzaghi leaves for Al-Hilal in Saudi Arabia, and with him, an era of overachievement, of belief, of quiet brilliance, comes to a close. Is it a mistake by Inter? All the right call. After a scar so deep, it might never fully heal. Maybe even the best coaches can't recover from that kind of public collapse. Maybe he knew it too. That sometimes the hardest decision is knowing when to walk away. He took a team no one feared in Europe and made them contenders. He made the impossible feel normal. Simone Inzaghi didn't fail. He ran out of magic. But what a spell it was. Simone Inzaghi to Al-Hilal. Here we go. Something I never ever thought I would say. Something I never ever thought I would read. Something I never ever thought I would hear. And when I did hear it for the first time a month ago, I was like, this is all paper talk. This is just rumours. This is just the Saudi Pro League, with all due respect, being ambitious. You can't get one of the best coaches in Italian football. You can't get one of the best coaches in European football. In the modern era. Impossible. You stand no chance. But now it's concrete and it's official. Simone Inzaghi has signed a 2-year deal with Al-Hilal. So what do I make of it? I feel like he's stepped down. I haven't really read into it too much, but in my own humble opinion, I feel like he's stepped down. And I feel like the main reason behind it is he needs a break. Let's be real. This all came about from Inter going trophyless. And the icing on the cake was, you go trophyless, but your final game of the season is a 5-0 spanking to PSG in the Champions League final. Like, that is worldwide humiliation. That is worldwide embarrassment. That is a performance, a scoreline that will go into the Champions League history books. It will never ever be forgotten by an Inter fan. It will never ever be forgotten by football fans. It will never ever be forgotten by Simone Inzaghi. It was an embarrassing performance, and I feel like where the difference is this time around is 2 years ago, when Inter lost to Manchester City, they lost 1-0. People always looked at them and said, you know what? You were the better team on the day. But we could see the fight. You were the better team. You were just unlucky. I feel like when you look at it now, you don't look at Inter and say, you were unlucky. You don't look at that performance with pride. Like, let's look at it like this. After the performance against Manchester City where they lost 1-0, as much as every Inter fan was upset, I feel like deep down, they were proud of their team's performance, because they were like, listen, we've just come up against open checkbook Manchester City, who have a £100 million striker, £100 million winger. That team in comparison to ours, and we outfought them. Tactically, we out-edged them. In terms of that 90-minute performance, we outplayed them. But we were just unlucky. Let's give it another crack. When you look at PSG 5, Inter 0, in my opinion, it was a financial mismatch, like I said in the introduction. But at the same time, no Inter fan would have left that stadium, would have turned off their TV telling themselves, I'm proud of this team. No, they looked at them with anger, with hatred, with disrespect. They were just embarrassed. A 5-0 spanking. And I feel like it's a scar. It's a wound that's so big that Simone Inzaghi can't recover from it. Yes, maybe in 1-2 years' time he can recover. But as of the present time, with the new Serie A campaign starting in 2 months, the Club World Cup starting in 2 weeks, he's probably looking at it and thinking, I can't rally the troops. And as much as we might look at football and say, listen, football, it's a tactical game. Football, it's a technical game. Football is a physical game. Football is also a mental game. And I'm actually intrigued to see what Inter we see in the Club World Cup, what Inter we see next year in the Serie A, because I feel like these players have all hit rock bottom. All of that belief, that confidence that they had inside of them has now been sucked out by force. Trophyless. A month before the season ends, potential treble winners. You end the season trophyless. You end the season with humiliation. You end the season in a performance where you probably sat looking at your teammates asking questions like, you're better than that. You're better than that. I'm better than that. But we all sat down and watched that 90-minute performance. It was embarrassing. I'll be honest with you guys. Like, that's the best way to put it. In a nutshell, it was an embarrassing performance. It was the most one-sided Champions League final that we've seen in years. Champions League finals tend to be so cagey, so tense, so tactical. To lose 5-0 in a Champions League final, that's something that will never ever be forgotten. And I feel like these players have hit rock bottom, and maybe, just maybe, the Inter board are looking at Inzaghi and saying, regardless of how good of a coach you are, regardless of how much potential you have, we feel like you can't lift these players up. You can't. You can't lift them up. You can't rally the troops. You can't take this team 2 months later into the Serie A campaign of 2025-2026 and get them to compete for another Serie A. These players might be looking at their coach thinking, you've gotten us to 2 Champions League finals. Thank you. But we lost both. You've had us compete for 2 or 3 Serie A's. Thank you. We've only won 1. Is this your peak? Is this Simone Inzaghi's peak? Now, of course, in my opinion, I apply a lot of context to things. I don't think so. I personally look at it and say, this is a dude that's about to go do 1-2 years in Saudi and come back to Serie A. Now, I don't know whether or not he's going to come back to Inter. He might go to Juve. He wouldn't go to Milan. He might even go into Europe, into the Premier League. This is a coach in demand. This is a coach in demand. And he's only, 49? 1, 2, 3 years in Saudi Arabia. He's still coming back, full of energy. But what does it hold for Inter? What does it mean for Inter? Now, it's being reported. The 2 options are Cesc Fàbregas and Roberto De Zerbi from Marseille. Now, you could see the direction that they're heading in. And in my opinion, they want to bring in a coach with a completely different philosophy to somebody like Simone Inzaghi, because they feel like the only way we're going to lift these players up and put that spark and that hunger back in their stomachs is by bringing in somebody different. Somebody like Cesc Fàbregas. Young, different philosophy, different play style, different formation. A younger coach, maybe he'll connect with them better. Or maybe Roberto De Zerbi. Somebody that's full of fire, passion. I feel like Inter are looking at it and they're thinking, we could be in big, big, big trouble. Because they're about to lose all of their old heads. From Acerbi, Darmian, Arnautovic. Yes, they're losing them, but that squad depth that's now gone. Do they have the funds to replace them? And if they do replace them, are these players going to have equal impact? Like, fair enough, we sit down and say Acerbi is 37. But Acerbi is still a very solid centre-half in this area at the age of 37. So you let him go, you bring in somebody younger. Is that younger centre-half going to show you the same quality as an Acerbi? Yes, no, maybe. You don't know what the future holds. And I feel like they're looking at it. Let's just look at it like this. It's like Inter at the moment, I wouldn't classify them as a sinking ship. No, in order for you to be a sinking ship, you need to have tasted downfall season after season after season for you to start sinking, for it to be a downward slope. But at the moment, Inter, it's looking like it's heading in the direction of a sinking ship. So the alarm bells are going off. The ship is not sinking, but the alarm bells are going off. And I feel like the Inter board, Beppe Marotta, they're looking at it and they're saying, no. We can't go down another banter era. We can't. We've got talented players. Players that can win. Players that are in their prime. Players that want to succeed here. Barella, Bastoni, Lautaro Martinez, Marcus Thuram. DiMarco, as much as It was an embarrassing performance. They're looking at it and saying the alarm bells are going off. So maybe, just maybe, Simone Inzaghi leaves. We bring in a young, hungry, fresh coach like a Fàbregas. It might put the alarms away. Maybe, just maybe, moving away from the 3-5-2. Bringing in a new style of football. Maybe, just maybe, that would stop the alarm. But in my opinion, I've actually been surprised by the reaction of Inter fans online because a lot wanted them gone. A lot were now 50-50 on defence. For me, you always have to look at Simone Inzaghi with context. Like, this is a team that spends no money. And I don't want anybody to get smart with me and say, oh, but they spent 10 million on this player, 15. What is 10 million in the modern game? What is 15 million in the modern game? What is 20 million in the modern game? Yes, they've got good players, but they're players that they've developed themselves. They haven't gone out and signed any stars. They've made stars that have had consistent impacts on this team. But I'll be honest, I still look at it and tell myself 2 Champions League finals in 3 years is something that should have never ever happened. Never ever happened. And that's why I will always respect Simone Inzaghi. I will always respect him. But I feel like it's now reached a stage in his career where he needs to put himself first. Not for financial reasons, no. A 5-0 spanking is too big. It's too big to recover from in 2 months. Well, they don't even get 2 months. The Club World Cup starts in 2 weeks. It's not enough time. You need a year. You probably need 2 years. You probably need to be away from the spotlight, away from Italian football, away from the criticism and the punditry. You need to be away. Go into a different continent. Fall back in love with the game. Fall back in love with your system. Learn some new things. Take a break. They always tell you, take a break in life from work. We work what? A 9 to 5. At 12, 1 o'clock, you're forced to go into an hour break. You need a break. You need to recharge your batteries. And I feel like with this Inter team, it's aging. It doesn't have the squad depth. A lot of these players are burnt out. Like, they play what? On average, 50, 60, 65 games every single season. The board needs to look at this and say, the alarm bells are going off. But this summer, we need to spend. So whoever the coach is that replaces Simone Inzaghi wouldn't go down a similar fate to him where after 1-2 seasons, the players are burnt out. They don't have the energy, but the demands remain. The standards remain. The expectations remain. The Inter board need to look at this and learn. I'm not saying they've made mistakes. Yes, financial restrictions, all of these things. But they're looking at it now and thinking, the next coach, we need to give them a far bigger squad. Because with a far bigger squad, maybe, just maybe, you can win a Champions League. But Simone Inzaghi, for me, I will never ever look at him and say he was a failure at Inter. Never, ever, ever. If I'm going to look at it and judge him strictly off scorelines, then yes, you might say he's a failure. But for me, I apply a lot of context and I know what he's achieved, how far he's taken this team, the way he's revolutionized them. I will always respect it. And I promise you, he will be back in the Serie A very, very, very soon. Now, if you're new, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys on another one.